Hey, shalom. Welcome back. So, hope you guys are doing well. Today we are going to continue with our Exodus 32 direct immersion. And I just want to pray real quickly. Adonai Adonenu ken yehi ratzon ki lekachnu yihyeh tov ba'einecha. Ta'azerna Abba et kol talmidai lilmod tov. All right. So here we are. Last time we finished with Exodus chapter 32 verse 4. It'll look like this if you missed that. Okay, it doesn't want to move, so we'll just stay here. Verse 5 says, let's scan it first. Vaya Aharon Vayiven Mizbeach lefanaiv Vayikra Aharon Vayomar Chag Ladonai Machar. All right. Let's do it one word at a time now. So the very first cluster of words says Vayor, and this is actually from the word Ra'ah, Reish Aleph Hey, Reish Aleph Hey, Ra'ah is to see. Vayor Aharon. So Yah means he will look or he is looking. But this is a Vav conversive here, so it changes to be perfect. So Vayor Aharon means then Aaron looked or he saw or he noticed. Vayiven. Vayiven. So this is actually from the word bana, beit, noon, hey, and the hey has gone away. This is what we call a lamed hey verb, and this is how you'll see it, the way I have it written on the screen. The rabbinical style is lamed, and then it looks like a kind of a double apostrophe, like a quote sign, and then hey. So what that means is that the letter that's in the lamed position, that's the third position of a verb, is a hey. So this is a class of verbs that behave similarly to one another. So when your verb ends in a hey, 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 when it ends in a hey, oftentimes the hey goes away. If you're using kind of a more modern Christian grammar, it'll say oftentimes Roman numeral 3 dash hey, and they'll either show the letter hey or they'll write it out H-E-H, meaning that there's a hey in the third position. So Roman 1, Roman 2 would be bait, and then Roman numeral position 3 would be hey. Okay, and you'll see what happens. It's gone, as I've illustrated on the screen. So the verbal root that's left, there's only two letters left from the root left, bait and noon, but it's actually the word bana or bane, which is to build. Build. Hope the sound is good. I've got a pretty decent setup going. Still having some issues getting my color pen situation to work today, so my apologies, but at least we've got solid sound, which I think is more important. So the yod tells us it's he. Yivan is the imperfect. He is building, or he will build. But then we have a vav conversive with the vav and the patach and a dagesh in the first yod, which changes the aspect. So instead of being an incompleted action, it becomes a perfect, which is a completed action. So Yuvan, he will build or he is building, but Va Yuvan becomes and he built. What did he build? Mizbeach, Mizbeach, an altar. This is one of our enhanced 60-second vocabulary word lessons over on Patreon. You can check it out, which will give you a verse from memorizing to help you to remember the word. And I also have a song on Patreon about Mizbeach, basically imagining what the altar was like, altar of sacrifice. And it's got some pretty nice lyrics, if I do say so myself. Check it out. And it also will help you to memorize and to see how this word changes. So Mizbeach is what we call the absolute form. This is an altar, an altar. But if you want to put it into the construct form, the da, mizbach, right? Mizbeach becomes mizbach. So that's altar of. Mizbeach and altar, mizbach, altar of, right? So, for example, the altar of the Lord would be da mizbach Adonai. Okay? You hear how the vowels change there? This happens with certain words. For example, the word for house, bayit. Bayit, if you want to put it in the construct, becomes beit. So bayit is a house, but beit is house of. So Beit Lechem, house of bread, right? Bethlehem, Beit Lechem. All right, let's continue. Actually, let's refresh what we just did. Vayol Aharon. Then Aaron looked, or he saw, he noticed, Vayiven, and he built from Bana, Mizbeach, an altar, Lefanaiv, before him. And this is always an interesting word. It comes from lifnei. Lifnei means before, and then we just put a suffix on the end, him. So lifnei, add the vav, becomes lifanaiv. And it's really three words combined, right? You have the lamed, which is the inseparable preposition for two, as in to, two or four, or belonging to. And then we have the word panim, Yiddish punim. Panim is face, even though it's a plural. That word only exists in the plural in Hebrew. And then we drop the mem when we put it in construct, right? So panim, like I was saying, how bait becomes bait, and how mizbeach becomes mizbach. Well, panim becomes penei. Okay, so le is two, penei, face of, I've of it. So to its face. That means in front of it. So vayiven mizbeach lefanaiv, or it can mean in this case for it. So you might be asking, what did he see? Why does it say Vayor Aharon? He saw what? So Rashi comments that when he saw that the calf was alive, this is leaning on Midrash. For Psalm 106:20 describes it as feeding on grass. when Aharon, so when he saw that Satan's effort had succeeded, he realized that nothing he could say would stop them, the Erev Harav. And so what happened next? Vayiven Mizbeach, he built an altar, lefanaiv, for before it, or in front of it. The idea of building an altar, according to Rashi, was a ploy to put them off. Right? So the idea is he's trying to delay. He's hoping he's hoping Moshe Rabbeinu will return, and so that Aharon will not have to fully resist and be killed. Ibn Ezra comments on Vayar Aharon, when Aaron saw this, that the calf had been made so quickly. Now, Nachmanides comments on Vayar Aharon, when Aharon saw this. Again, that's another Lamed Hey verb. I should have put the note up there too, right? So just like we have Lamed Hey for Baneh, Ra'ah is also Lamed Hey. That's why the Hey is missing. Sorry, I can't draw on the screen right now. So Nachmanides comments, when Aaron saw, he saw them bent on evil, right? From verse 22. So what did he do then? Vayiven Mizbeach, he built an altar. I like how Gersonides expresses it. When Aharon saw this, that they were under the impression that he would work a miracle so that the calf would lead them. Sorry, that's Bechor Shul. And then Gersonides comments on he built an altar, Vayiven Mizbeach, as another delaying tactic, so agreement that it's a delaying tactic, and to keep control of the situation in the guise of an idolatrous priest, a komer. In Hebrew, an idolatrous priest is not a kohen, not usually, it shouldn't be. It's a komer, kaf, mem, resh, which can be quite disappointing if, because even today in modern Hebrew dialect, if you're wanting to say that someone is, for example, by the way, no insult intended, to any Roman Catholics who are studying with us. Okay, we try to keep this kind of non-sectarian in the Hebrew literacy proper part. When a Roman Catholic priest, if you want to say that he's a priest in Hebrew, you don't say that he's a Kohen, right? Kohen is a different meaning, right? He's a Komer today, so it's not so nice, but it's not saying that he's necessarily idolatrous. It's just that's just what you say, right? Or if like a Protestant priest, for example, a what's that sect? What's the sect that Tucker Carlson was raised up in, and that he never fully denounced? They're like a copy of the. It's like the American version of the Church of England, Episcopalian, right? Right. The Episcopalians they have priests too, right? So that would be a Coleman as well. All right, let's continue. Vayar al Roman Aaron saw. You can substitute what it is that he saw there. Vayiven. Then he built Mizbeach, an altar. Lefaniv, for before it, or in front of him. Either way can be correct. Vayikra. The verb is kuf resh aleph if you're just listening, which is to call or to announce. Sometimes it can mean to name. Vayikra Aharon. Then Aaron announced or proclaimed. Vayomar. And he amad, he said. So this is in quotes now. Chag Ladonai, a festival for Yod-He Waw-He, for Hashem. Machar is Machar. Mem Chet Resh, it is tomorrow. And if you're wondering up, why do we point the Lamed with a Patach, right? It's Lamed, Patach. So that's La, and then Yod-He Vav-He. Well, this is further proof against the foolish claims of Nehemiah Gordon that you actually should read God's name the way it's written, in that rather what I mean, he thinks that the name starts Yeho, right? That's the first part of God's name because it'll have the vowels for Yeho under it, right? So he says you should read it the way it's written. So he'll say Yeho, and then he foolishly claims that the Vav is a V sound. Va. I suspect what happened is probably when he was learning Hebrew, he learned the modern Hebrew pronunciation, where Vav became a V, and then he taught it so strongly and was warmly received by the Christians, and they gave him a lot of money that he was later on, when he realized he was wrong, he's unable to backtrack. So even though every single Hebrew scholar knows the ancient Vav was a Waw sound, was a W, right? So there's no way God's name could possibly be Yeho Va with a V sound in there, right? Notice I'm putting a pause, even though it's the wrong way to pronounce his name. We have a very well established Masoretic tradition that tells us that God's name is written with a Ketiv form and there's a Kare pronunciation, right? So we pronounce it, the vowels for Adonai with an Aleph is put under there. So why is it a Yeh? Why is it an E sound? Well, that's because the Chatov Patach, which is a composite schwa under the Aleph, when it goes under a yod, it's a vocal schwa, just a normal schwa. So that's why it's a yeh there. And so people who don't really know the Masorah well, they will then mistakenly read it. And now he's kind of covered his tracks and say, oh, well, that's the rabbinical Jews did that. You claim to be a Karaite, and the leader of the Masoretes was a Karaite. So the Karaites also protect the name. It's not like some evil rabbinical conspiracy, okay? So you can't claim to be a Karaite and then say, well, I'm going to actually ignore what the Karaites teach on this. Karaites also safeguard the name of God. They do not say his name, his sacred name, okay? So that's why we get an all here. Because if you're reading Yod He Vav He with the proper tradition that it's Adonai, there would be an Aleph instead of a Yod there. And the schwa that's usually under Adonai is actually a Chat of Patach. So it's a patach, and there's a schwa next to it. So when we put an inseparable preposition on a word, we put a schwa under it. Well, guess what? You can't have two schwas in a row at the beginning of a word. Usually it would lengthen to a chirek, but in the case of a composite schwa, it takes the sound under the composite schwa. So even the Masoretic text, which has a lot of Karaite influence, we have a patach here because they knew we should pronounce this word as Adonai. So if it was Yehovah, this would just be Le. We'd say Le, or it could have lengthened to Li, right? But yeah, would have lengthened to Li actually. Li ho va is how it would have worked. But instead, we have the patach actually written out on the lamed, which shows that 1,200 years ago plus, everybody knew you read this as Ladonai, and there it is. Any comments or questions? Hope you guys are enjoying. So glad to have you here with me today as we go through this interesting stuff. I should mention that it is possible, even though I translated he saw, and this is how the sages usually translate the vaya, it is possible. It is possible that the vowels should be different and it could be he feared, right? If we just ignore the vowel tradition, then it could be he feared. Yeah. But going with the vowels as they are, it's then he saw or when he saw. It's a little bit interesting, actually. The Samaritan Targum, pardon me, the Samaritan Torah, excuse me, because we don't have vowels, it makes it very easy to understand that way, right? And Targum Yonatan understands it as feared, translates it into Jewish Aramaic as feared, whereas Targum Neofiti has saw, but Pseudo Yonatan has feared. So we get some interesting stuff there. The Septuagint translates Kai Idon, which is and he saw. Kai Idon Aaron. And then Aaron saw, or and Aaron saw. Okay, let's go through one more time. You try to translate before I do. Vayoch Aharon. Then Aaron saw. We already talked about the tradition about what he saw. Vayiven Mizbeach. And he baned, he built a Mizbeach, an altar, lefanaiv, before it, or before him. Vayikra. And he proclaimed, or who proclaimed? Aharon. Then Aaron proclaimed, or he called out, Vayomar, and he said, Chag Ladonai Machar. Notice he didn't say Hayom. A Chag, a festival for Adonai is tomorrow, not Hayom, not today. Again, buying time. He's buying time, hoping Moshe will come back and help put a stop to this nonsense. All right, now I will read through it one more time. Do your best to understand. Vayoch Aharon, Vayiven Mizbeach lefanaiv, Vayikra Aharon, Vayomar Chag Ladonai Machar. One more time, normal pace. Vaya Aharon Vayiven Mizbeach lefanaiv, Vayikra Aharon Vayomar Chag Ladonai Machar. By the way, some will say Vayikra, like they'll kind of make that ah a little bit shorter to oh. That's the reason for that is especially if they have, for example, some influence from Arabic speaking nations like the Yemenite Jews. They're actually pronouncing that aleph, right? So sometimes they'll do that, right? But it's accented, so even then you don't have to do it. So just anyway, in case you ever hear someone saying yikro instead of yikra, that's what's happening. All right. For the rest of this lesson, which will cover verse 6, please head on over to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Hebrew Literacy. And we will have that happening over there in just a couple moments. So there will be a live drop. You can chat over there, just like we've been chatting over on YouTube, or you might be already on Patreon already chatting. That will be over there. And sorry to have to do this, but we need to make sure that we can continue to survive as a teaching effort, a teaching ministry. And I got a couple months to complete the goal so that I will know if I can keep doing this or not. All right. So it's only because of desperate times, desperate measures that I'm trying to funnel you guys over there. I hope you'll decide to support what I do. We got all kinds of interesting stuff over on Patreon, additional teachings, and there's music that helps you with vocabulary words and even for praise and worship. And there's additional comments and we have teachings on Koheleth and on Judges and even Jewish Greek if you're interested in that. So I even did a little bit of a foray into Pirkei Avot. So hopefully You can come on over if you want. Start is free. Come over, be a free member, check it out, see what you like, what's around there. Listen to some of the previews of the music. See what you feel like supporting if you want to support. But I really appreciate it. But if you want verse 6, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be in a few minutes. The live drop over on Patreon. Shalom, shalom. This is the end of part 1 from a 2-part video. This video was proudly Israeli made and edited. Am Yisrael Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Tikkun Olam, repair the world. Do your part to reduce suffering among humans and animals. Shalom.